Hello everyone, welcome back once again to the Lazer Grand Arena. We've got a couple more matches here after a little bit of a break. We've had already, I believe, 8 matches been played. But today we have, you know, in theory, probably the closest one here. Seed 16 versus Seed 17. Should be a really good one. Of course, I'm Azer, and today I'm joined by Voidy with this cast. How's it going?
Going good, thank you, Azer. Yeah, and as you mentioned, Seed 16 versus 17, always in theory, should be super hype, super close. I think both of these players have there's some similarities in their skill sets, some differences as well. So obviously with this format, we're gonna get each player banning a map out the gate. Sobu banning out the No Mod 5, banning out the reading map. I do think that is going to be Trumpatino's biggest advantage against Sobu. Is going to be reading. Both of them can play tapping decently well, and various aim and mechanics are a lot closer. But Trumpatino has that large advantage in reading, so might see a early hidden 2 picked.
Delirium, I was just talking about this 2 minutes ago. I think Delirium has been played in every single match so far, so I think this might be the first time we actually see it not played.
I think it's because Sobu is just really good at tech, so Trumpatino is probably respecting that. I'm pretty sure both of the tech-heavy maps Sobu kind of popped off on in qualies. So fair to see that get banned. Now we're gonna get to see the next 4 maps all picked in a row before they get played.
That's right here. So we're gonna be seeing the first 4 out of 5 maps being played. Let's see what they have in store for us.
Trumpatino going DT2. I think Trumpatino, pretty proficient stamina player, doing pretty well in all of the tapping heavy maps and qualies with some pretty big competition. I do think in this format where you're trying to essentially score race, you just cumulative score, tapping maps are a pretty good way to make up a pretty good margin. Might see DT3 or Hidden 2 pick from them, but Sobu going for the hidden route.
I mean, Sobu on Namanita kind of makes here very tech adjacent map. Definitely more than capable to play it. But yeah, I mean, we have been seeing quite a lot of the more extreme skill sets being played. We've somehow been seeing a lot of Hidden 2. Most notably, I think, a pretty binary map. So we'll see if they actually want to play into that, considering Sobu did ban Let's Quartz, which is also quite a similar type of map. Lots of stack reading.
Yeah, for sure. I think the pick here is either Hidden 2 if you want to lean into that reading advantage, or maybe something like DT3 if he just wants to stick to that speed affinity. It's gonna be Sobu's second pick first, and it's interesting with this format. Like going for something like No Mod 1, I don't think you ever really want to do, just because the opponent can't really do too bad on it. But instead, Sobu going for the Hard Rock 1, so the aim control Hard Rock, and I do think that is a map where if you pop off, you can get quite a lot of score ahead of your opponent.
Yeah, the pick strategy here is definitely a lot different from what you'd normally be seeing in a normal tournament. This is all very new territory, but I feel like, you know, as the tournament progresses, I think people are gonna catch on and adapt a little bit. Like you said, I think some type of maps I think are offering a greater reward, right? The range of scores that you can get on those definitely a little bit larger than something like No Mod 1. It is going to be DT3 though, Dragons at 1.6, and now we're just going to be banning up until there's 1 map left.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's obviously the advantage of Lazer is DT is now variable, so Dragons is the only map in this pool that is not 1.5, but I assume as we get deeper into the tournament, we're going to see pretty big varieties. I'm keen to see some like Diryu 1.8, something like that on that. Just a really classic map that's too easy for top players, just juiced up to the gills.
Wait, is Diryu AR9? That would be crazy.
Oh, maybe you can go variable speed and approach rating. You have to do some cooking with that.
I think an Air 9 map at that speed would actually be above Air 11 or something. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, Dragons is like 10.5, which actually 10.5 approach rating in a round of 32 is really high.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel very natural though, because it's not really like doesn't feel that much higher, right? It's still the same map, just sped up a little bit. So even then, it's only slightly higher than the normal DT rate on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, you can already tell we're gonna be seeing some different rates next week for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting. So it's Sobu for the next ban. Looks like we might end up having Hidden 2 or No Mod 2 open as the effective tiebreaker for this match, and I think Trumpatino might be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, this is always the pretty interesting part of drafting for me, because at this point, you're not really picking any of your strong maps. Like, they're all gone already, right? They're all either picked or banned, so you know, this choice is always, you know, pretty hard to make. You know, which one, as the decider of the match of all things too, right? Like, it's a pretty important map, and I think neither player is going to be comfortable in any of these, right? It's not any of their picks in particular, so.
I mean, yeah, I would agree. So I assume Trumpatino just bans Hard Rock 2 here, right? I mean, your opponent picked a Hard Rock. I don't think Trumpatino did that well on the 6.5 in qualies, and then you get to last pick No Mod 2, which is a skill set they're actually both super close in. In qualies, it's Sobu 16th on No Mod 2 and Trumpatino 17th, so it might actually be a pretty effective tiebreaker. Hard Rock 2 banned. Leaving a 6.5 as the last map would be pretty psycho.
Yeah. Well, you'll be seeing some No Mod 2 then, very traditional No Mod 2 this one. From the era of slot pooling, we can say.
Definitely on the higher BPM side. I think it's like 210, which is, you know, pretty high BPM.
Well, this should be a pretty interesting lineup of maps here that we have. We got a lot of mechanics overall, right? Like, other than maybe Hard Rock 1, which maybe has a little bit of more control, right? Just a lot of speed right out of the gate and a lot of stamina with No Mod 2. So maybe, you know, perhaps favoring Trumpatino, you'd say?
I think probably. It pretty much just depends on how Sobu's speed is feeling today and their stamina is feeling today, because if Sobu can not necessarily win these picks but just put up a good score, obviously every ounce of score counts when it's cumulative score being the win condition, and then if you pop off on the Hidden 1, pop off on the Hard Rock 2, make up that difference and then do pretty well on the No Mod 2, yeah, definitely. I mean, both players have a shot here. It's both of them get to play the maps they want, and the last map is about as close as you can get looking at last quali, so you can see what happens.
Alright, we should be getting ready to take a look at this first map here, Arsene's Bazaar. We've seen it a couple times on stream already. Extremely fast-paced map. Not too much in terms of speed here for DT2, I would say. Mostly a lot of single control, finger control with a lot of doubles and things like that. But we are getting into it here, and we've been saying this a lot here, but you know, on laser scoring, accuracy is kind of everything, right? So something to get used to on a pick like this, right? It's going to make a lot of difference. Usually a map like this, you know, you can kind of get by and tank your ACK a little bit. That's not going to fly on laser scoring. It's going to matter so much more.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if you miss at any point, it's only going to be more damaging. And another thing about laser scoring is the baseline scores are going to be a lot higher. So I feel like as a general rule, you can kind of double the score gap when converting between this and Score V2 to kind of have a reference point. So, you know, 60k in advantage of Trumpatino, but be pretty big. But so far, other than a early break from Sobu, both players keeping up. It's just that 2% active making all the score.
I feel like that's a pretty big score difference here for... It's pretty much just a 2%, right? 100 combo, but we do see a break from Trumpatino that's slowly gonna head back over to Sobu's side here, catching up in accuracy as well here.
This is massive for Sobu on Trumpatino's first pick, taking the score lead now. Not much map to go. Despite that early break-in, I mean, yeah, there it is. Huge first map for Sobu. Recovering the accuracy pretty heavily as well. By the end, the act difference, in favor of Trumpatino wasn't that significant, and obviously holding on that combo, really, really good start for Sobu going into their next two maps.
Yeah, we went from a 2% gap to a 0.6% gap near the end there, so really good for Sobu to recover there. Trumpatino with a one unfortunate miss, but a lot of act tanking afterwards there. And that's going to wrap it up for that map here. Slightly over 70k difference, and we're going to be heading to Amanita as well. Very different style of map.
A completely different style. Not super dense for hidden. I think it's something like, beat 194 AR 9.6, so not super dense, but just the patterns in this map make it very, very easy to miss on, especially all the streams, all the flow aim on hidden, the various slider aim. So if it's saying, OMG, give me a moment, I'm about to die.
Hopefully not. Literally.
Yeah, especially when there's only 5 maps to be played, having a strong start on your opponent's first pick is puts you in a good position.
Yeah, one thing that's, just the fact that the matches are guaranteed to only be 5 maps long, right? It's a very short, condensed session compared to, like the potential of what a normal match could be, right? Normally, playing a normal tournament at this stage is probably the best of 9 or best of 11, right? You're playing so many more maps, potentially, right? So it's really important to just play at your best for every single one of these, right? It actually matters so much.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's also interesting, let's say you're playing a map and the break happens and you're losing by like a double score margin. There's no chance of you winning. In normal tourneys, you might kind of just not give up, but lose focus. Not really pay attention anymore. But here, it's like even if you're not doing that great, you might get a 100k score more by just locking in, and that might end up being the difference by the end. I think one of the ANZT iterations had this format, and I did really like it. I saw a lot of potential, so keen to see it's being used more. But Trumpatino out the gate, several misses. So dropping as well.
As a wise man once said, never give up.
Never give up. Man.
Still looking a little bit more comfortable here. Not by much, right? Small differences here, just that one break from Trumpatino. But this is a bit of a long one, right? This pick, right? You wouldn't really expect it to be so much of a grind sometimes. It's a little bit over 3 minutes with very little breaks. So keeping up that consistency the whole time really matters a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially this kind of mapping style, it's pretty easy to be like mentally fatigued by the end. Chain miss a couple of streams, you drop your score by a lot. You can see both players pretty even. Sobu with that slight act lead and having a bit better time with combo, but could have changed by the end. Trumpatino dropping, gives the lead back to Sobu.
I think it's going to be pretty important for Sobu here to try to take a little bit of a lead, or a little bit of a stronger lead, right? We're playing on their first pick now, and it's going to be their second one right after this, right? So you definitely want to have your strong performances on your own picks here. 50k in the lead on this one so far from a little bit of an act lead. Not much of a combo really anywhere, a lot of misses here and there, but definitely the act making all the difference.
Both players missing on the stream section, but nobody chain missing. And now Sobu up to 98% AC, over 2% ahead of Trumpatino. And especially on a map like this where it's pretty tough to really hold a combo, just focusing on the accuracy is going to be more than enough to build up some score difference.
You know what I find really interesting about it? This is, I can't get over this because we have the PP counter on this like default skin now, right? Like, you look at these scores, they're really not that different. You know, it's less than 100k apart and stuff, and maybe 2% AC, but it's double the PP. Isn't that funny?
That is actually pretty funny, yeah. Okay, yeah, quite just a MAC gap. Is the PP formula different to, I assume it's just the one on stable right now, right?
I believe it's the same.
Yeah. I guess I can miscount. Looks like in this ending, Trumpatino finding a couple misses, Sobu holding on relatively well. And will be solidifying that score lead from the first map.
Yeah, that's definitely what Sobu's going to want here. It might not seem like a huge difference, but when it's, you know, it's seed 16, seed 17, you really need to pull your advantages on your picks like this one, right? Because a lot of maps near the end of this draft that like we said probably favors Trumpatino a little bit, so he's got to get what he can.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I do think DT3 is, if anywhere, is where Trumpatino can get a pretty big advantage. AR 10.5, pretty high BPM. See if that pushes the limits of Sobu, but Sobu has their last, pick of their own here. Build up that gap even more. And this one I think is a lot spicier than Amanita. I mean, it's just super difficult precision aim control.
Yeah, this one so far has definitely been a little bit more of a specialist map. So perhaps a good pick here.
So I think in Lazer, when you see a score difference of like 100k, and that's a pretty big difference, especially when the baseline of most scores is going to be something like 500k. Might almost double it. So Sobu getting a 100k gap on the hidden one is bigger than it might seem. So it's pretty wild how far the featured artist program has come along, that you can make, I mean, so far the qualities and this week's pool is just entirely FA, and you get a pretty wild variety now.
Yeah, a lot of investment being put toward that, but also quite challenging for us to do. We aren't like intentionally doing 100% FA, and I mean, there's a lot of songs to choose from, but with no custom mapping, the choices are pretty limited. So it's been a bit of a challenge.
So I just realized they're not using no fail.
No, because on Lazer that would reduce your score. It doesn't work the same way on V2, right? So maybe something to look at for sure. We have already had some fail incidents, but it's okay. We do count the score.
Now I'm curious because the HP drain on this map is 5.5 without Hard Rock, so especially how chain missable the skill set is, this is a very lethal map.
Yeah, I mean they can't. Even if they can fail, we still count the score, so it doesn't really matter. Just break some things on the back end for now. But.
So far, very, very strong lead for Sobu. Getting through that first difficult section should have a little bit of free combo to play around with. Build up that score lead even more.
Yeah, strong position to be in here. Halfway in, already 90,000.
Does drop the combo, but just needs to hold on to that accuracy. Another situation, like you mentioned before, not a huge score gap, but like double the PP value.
It's always really interesting for even for us to watch these matches because we tested a lot of laser scoring internally, with test players and all that, and it was always fairly close. But it's pretty different to see it in actual matches and see exactly when drops happen, when misses happen, how it affects the score. I think this is very fresh territory. It's kind of interesting to look at, considering I've had Scorpy 2 for I don't even know 7 years now, 8 years, right? It's very well studied and documented, and I think we're all familiar with it. But this is very interesting.
Yeah, well, it'll take a bit of brain rewiring to get used to the new values. But 150k score lead for Sobu there. That is going to big. Once again widen the margin, and now Sobu is chilling at a pretty big lead. But it is going into Trumpatino's last pick into the effective tiebreaker, so pressure is on Trumpatino here to perform. So far, Sobu has outscored Trumpatino on every map, but not by such a large margin that it's hopeless. But here on the DT3, Trumpatino, you really want to claw back on that lead.
Yeah, around 300k to make up here. I think the closest match so far that we've seen was around 200k of difference at the end, so potentially a closer one here. I mean, even we've said on paper, right? Two seeds right next to each other in a round like this where matchups are so lopsided usually, right? You'd expect this match to be extremely close, and so far it has been.
Yeah, I think right here it's just you kind of expect Sobu to outscore on their picks, but starting out the match by outscoring on Trumpatino's first pick was quite a good start. Can Sobu hold it together on the DT3 as well?
Yeah, this one just really tests mechanic in a pretty traditional way, right? At 1.6, this is 262 BPM. I think it's AR 10.5 or a little bit under that. Hard to tell sometimes because the modifiers don't really tell you that clearly.
Oh, there'll be some decimal point rounding shenanigans there.
Someone's probably done the math out there.
Seeing the 1.6 really does feel like we're in the future.
I think the part that comes next is being able to use difficulty adjust while keeping the score normal. Maybe one day.
I think you get some cool stuff, because the one downside of raid up sometimes is the AR gets really wacky.
Yeah.
But if you can increase the rate but lower the AR a bit down to make it a bit more reasonable, you can get some... You have essentially an infinite amount of maps for any skill level. Out the gate though, both players pretty neck and neck. If you are Trumpatino, you really want Sobu to drop soon because the back is literally the same right now.
It was summoned.
Very, very sad lead. Unfortunately, that is a miss for Trumpatino. Now Sobu, once again, has a chance here to just make that score lead even bigger. Does find a break though now. Trumpatino once again with an opportunity, hopefully.
Yeah, really close map here that we're seeing. But again, I mean, Trumpatino's 300k down from the previous maps, right? Definitely has to come up with that somewhere. Only has 2 maps left to do it. And Sobu now with a 30k lead with this combo going up to the ending, right? So maybe a little bit of a dire situation here at the end for Trumpatino.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're Trumpatino and you manage to somehow win this pick by the end, probably won't be by too huge of a margin, and right now Sobu with all of the combo accuracy pretty much neck and neck here. See, ever slight amount of shake from Sobu, but is holding it together here.
I was actually just thinking about that. I'm just thinking out loud here, but this format with the cumulative score thing is probably a whole different like mindset. You know, the elements of gameplay in a tournament match like this that makes someone nervous, you know, like it's probably entirely different here, right? Because it's not just about like, oh, I'm doing well on this one map, you know, it's I gotta perform on this one map. No, it's like now you already know kind of where you are in the standings, right? You know how if you're winning, you know you know you gotta perform much earlier on than in a normal match, right? So I wonder how that affects nerves.
It is completely different. It's a bit similar to like qualies, where in qualies, which is you're adding up the score differences in a similar way. You just don't know where you are obviously as you're doing it. Every bit of score matters. Versus in normal tourneys, if you win, you win. If you lose, right? There's really no bonus points for winning by a bunch of score. Yeah, here it's interesting. You really got to try at all points in time. But Sobu now with a huge score lead, over 400k. I mean, this is looking pretty dire for Trumpatino at this point. I think even if you have C here, as long as Sobu doesn't completely fall apart, it's going to be tough to make up that lead.
Last map on the line here for these two players. A pretty significant achievement to be 400k up on this one here. It's definitely possible.
Certainly possible, but will require a Herculean effort here. An early miss from Trumpatino is not going to be a good testament to that case. Because right now it seems like Sobu is the one with the early comfort advantage here.
Something interesting to mention on this map, because we didn't really get to talk about it too much on this match. It's been mentioned a few times earlier today. But yeah, these types of maps here with sometimes kind of precise circle changes here, right? Some of these transitions between some of these streams. Normally on stable, if you miss one of those, you're done. You go lock, you gotta recover, you gotta overstream. It's not a thing on Lazer at all here, right? Like, you can just keep on playing, you're fine. You just got one miss and you're good. So a little bit of an adjustment to make here to get used to if you want to perform well on these types of maps, because essentially if you learn how to do that, these maps actually become so much easier.
Oh yeah, for sure. I didn't even think about that. The fact that Lazer doesn't have note lock. It doesn't apply just to flow maps. Obviously I think it applies the most to maps like this, but even on very dense no mod 3s, for example, or certainly some other maps, like the Hard Rock one is another example of a type of map that would be pretty note lockable on stable.
I mean, the No Mod 3 we have in this pool is like really notorious for that, because it's just that type of map where it's going to make you miss exactly one object. Like that map just does that. But yeah, not here. It's been smooth sailing for the people playing on Lazer. We even saw Tuna FC that map earlier, which is kind of crazy.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, on this one, even on this last pick here, Sobu's still with the lead here, so looking to solidify his victory. We're halfway in the last map here, still 400k in the lead ahead. So quite a strong performance here for what was supposed to be a pretty even matchup, right? So
yeah, I mean, Trumpatino went for the tapping strategy, hoping to make the difference but is playing tapping really well. And to be fair, Trumpatino played the tapping fairly well. It's just Sobu didn't just match that, but exceeded that slightly and then played to their strengths very well. And here we are on the last map once again. Very tapping heavy map. You can see by the accuracies, both players are feeling the strain. Sobu just ahead.
Yeah, at this rate, pretty much just a victory lap here at the end. This map is crazy.
This map is hard, dude. This is a really high BPM for how spaced and long these streams are.
Yeah, some of these patterns, I don't know how these people do this, but here they are. And there it is.
There we go.
So we're here with a pretty comfortable victory here over Trumpatino. That's gonna add up to, I think, a little bit close to 500k difference at the end, right?
Yeah, just a tiny bit under. Almost 100k average score difference on every map.
All right, well done to them. It's worth mentioning the first, well, pretty much the entire tournament, other than the very, very end, is all single elimination. So that's going to be it for Trumpatino for the tournament. Thank you for playing. And for Sobu, that means that in, I believe, 2 hours even, we're going to be seeing, I guess, the first, we could call it round of 16, I suppose. The first match of round of 16 here. We're doing 2 rounds in 1 weekend, so Sobu's going to be facing against seed number 1, Amamiya Kokoro, in not very long here. It's a Saturday match, whereas all the other ones are Sunday matches, so that should be pretty interesting. That's actually just going to happen right after Amamiya's round of 32 match as well, which we'll be seeing in a little while here, I think in an hour and a half or so. So there's the first matchup we're going to be seeing on the next round. It's still the same pool, but yeah, that should be interesting to watch.
Yeah, see you there, and I believe see you as well in about 27 minutes.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing Amasetic against Kurumi. Kurumi, most notably getting the seed placement because I think they failed the map, or they did not play one of their maps. So a little bit of a seed sandbag here. Might be, in theory, on paper, maybe the highest quality match we're gonna get. 2 very, very good players here, with Kurumi being, realistically a little bit better than that seed might indicate. So make sure not to miss that. We'll be back in 27 minutes.